see that Israel must exist and has a right to exist and is one of the great outposts of democracy in the world.
My Jewish brothers and sisters said to me amid anti-Semitism anywhere, we don't need your support. We have enough Jewish power to deal with this problem ourselves. I would still take a stand against anti-Semitism because it's wrong, it's unjust, and it's evil. If my Catholic brothers and sisters said to me, amid bigotry toward Catholics, we don't need your support in this because we have enough Catholic power to deal with it, I would still take a stand against bigotry toward Catholics because it is wrong, it is evil, and it is unjust.
So Bernice King, who is the daughter of Martin Luther King, clapped back at Amy Schumer after she put a tweet up saying, after Schumer shared a clip on X of Martin Luther King Jr. denouncing anti-Semitism and defending Israel's right to exist. His daughter, Bernice King, took to the social media platform to clarify her father would also have backed a ceasefire if he were alive today. Addressing Schumer directly, King wrote Tuesday night, quote, this is my quote from her tweet. Certainly, my father was against anti-Semitism, as am I. He also believed militarism, along with racism and poverty, to be among the interconnected triple evils. I am certain he would have called for Israel's bombing of Palestine to cease, for hostages to be released, and for us to work for true peace, which includes justice. He said justice is at its best love, correcting everything that stands against love. We have much to correct. And that is, again, Dr. Bernice King. Listen, I appreciate, Dina, I appreciate Bernice King's comment, as I do a lot of the times. And mainly because what I know is, as a person who spent a lot of time studying Black history, specifically those who fought to get us free, I always am baffled at how white Americans will quote small parts of Dr. King. They do the same thing with the Bible, telling Black people that you're supposed to obey your slave masters when they were slaves. They would take and pick and choose, cherry pick is what my grandma would say, cherry pick what they want to be used to benefit them and not understand. To use Dr. King's word, a pacifist, a lifelong pacifist, words to support a war was absolutely disrespectful to this man's legacy. Dina, what are your points on that?
You know, here's when somebody starts talking about this conflict in terms of it being either anti-Semitic or, you know, Islamophobic. This is why in the beginning, I actually talked about my Christianity, because I think it almost feeds into the narrative that this is a war over God. And they completely forget that Palestinians include Christians also. This is a war about territory. And so I think that all these organizations that put out statements and were against anti-Semitic and Islamophobic, but they fail to say anti-Arab or anti-Palestinian. They just assume all Palestinians are Muslim. And that feeds into this being a war around God. It's a war around religion. This is not about God. This is not about religion. This is about land and people claiming that they have a right to live in this land on all sides. And that is what this dispute is about. And to your point, Nelson Mandela, he said the work was not done until Palestinian was free. He really saw an affinity with Palestinian people because the colonization of the British of Palestine was around the same times of South Africa. And he really understood the apartheid as being a similar situation as South Africa. So I think that, Amy Schumer has had quite a lot of bad posts around this. Actually, some really blatant anti-Palestinian posts around this. So I'm kind of not surprised that she cherry-picked this. But anyway, my mission is for people to realize, again, this is not a war about God. And that partly it's because Palestinians contain people of many different religions.
And I think that's a powerful statement. And you know what? I think I'm also guilty of falling into that trap. And I appreciate you pointing that out. I also, as a person who went to divinity school at Wake Forest Baptist, it's also on my heart to remind people that Jesus was a Palestinian Jew. Right. We're talking about it. And I think people don't consider that a lot of the time when we're talking about how diverse this region is and who has claims to that land. So I appreciate that. But Dr. King wasn't done there. She went on to say that, I encourage you to read, talking to Amy, where do we go from here? Chaos or community? I mourn with all who are mourning. I know that we can't afford to diminish and dehumanize each other if we are truly to commit to ridding humanity of the triple evils and to freedom from oppression to all. Freedom from oppression to all. Excuse me about that tongue tie. I think that is an important statement to mention because, I mean, the oppression is what you were talking about when we're talking about colonization and how Nelson Mandela could be in South Africa and feel the pain that Palestinian people were going through because it was familiar. Bernice King, on her part, has consistently called for a ceasefire in the ongoing Israeli-Hamas conflict. And on October the 22nd, she tweeted, I once again passionately urge a ceasefire and immediate deployment to Gaza of additional crucial life-saving supplies at the scale needed. We can't wait. And I think this at the scale needed is an important point because what people were confused when they said there were 20 trucks coming in with aid, Gaza Strip needs about 200, 350 of those trucks daily to address the need that's going on. Also, what's missing in all of those trucks is fuel. And they need fuel to keep these hospitals going. Without these hospitals, this is why we're seeing hospitals shut down and the overcrowding of one particular hospital because they have the lack of that resources. So that is an important point to mention. And we shouldn't get blinded by the few trucks that are coming in now, thinking that Palestinians, the people in Gaza, are getting what they need.
I'm so glad. Sarah, I just wanted to jump in. I'm so glad you brought up that point because that has actually been really bothering me. The media really has been talking about humanitarian aid going in. But because this blockade has been there for over a decade, 400 to 500 trucks a day went in with humanitarian aid from the UN before October 7th. 400 to 500 trucks. But when they're letting in 20 trucks, after all of this, we are talking about a trickle of the aid that they need.
Yeah, that's an important point, and people need to know that. And I think this is the equivalent to people being blinded by what we see on TV. We see trucks moving in, and it's just not enough. And their excuse is Hamas might take the fuel. Well, my response would be people are definitely going to die without that fuel, and that is a horrible place to leave it at. But people should know that is exactly what will happen. People will die.